Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. Om Saraswatiye Namaha. My salutations and adorations at the feet of our Divine Master, Sri Swami Shivananda, and at the feet of our beloved Pujya Swamiji, Swami Sahajananda. My pranams to all those who are listening in. The topic, Unlocking the Yale Lock Sadhana, is quite appropriate for the first month of the new year, as it sets the scene for the sadhana that was prescribed to us by our beloved Pujya Swamiji. Years ago, I'm not sure when, perhaps in the 90s, Pujya Swamiji coined the phrase when he saw that most of us were not making much progress spiritually because of certain fundamental deficiencies in our sadhana. The problem was, at that time, we did not take the tasks given to us with the seriousness they deserved. And this was because we chose not to obey Pujya Swamiji to the letter and to take every word of his as gospel. So we would do things the way we wanted to at our own pace. It's quite important to make some observations at this point regarding Pujya Swamiji and obedience. Pujya Swamiji, whenever he gave instructions, I can give the listeners assurance that those instructions were coming directly from from Sri Gurudev. When Swamiji said, and he did this often, Gurudev told me, this was literal. Gurudev was speaking to Swamiji at all times through his inner voice, and I have to say that at one time I had the experience of actually hearing Gurudev's voice telling Swamiji what to say and Swamiji repeating it after him. So whatever Swamiji said was coming directly from Gurudev, and whatever Gurudev said was coming directly from God, because Gurudev was a God-realized sage. So even if we knew this, that we did not fully understand or appreciate that every action, every word that came from Pujya Swamiji was coming directly from the Master himself. Even if we knew this, our ego prevented us from fully accepting this indisputable fact. So if the Master himself was speaking and the Master is God realized, then the instructions we were getting were coming directly from God, and so they have to be questioned, carried out unquestioningly and with full obedience. Swamiji practiced the sadhana and he wanted us to do the same. But we didn't, because our hearts were locked and we did not allow the grace to flow into it in the way Swamiji allowed Gurudev's grace to flow into his. If you read Guidance in Daily Life and elsewhere, you will see that when asked by Swamiji why Gurudev allowed this to happen, Gurudev simply said that we, the devotees, have the key to the lock and he cannot do anything. So what this meant was the solution was in our hands. There are certain fundamental principles that we in the Divine Life Society have to adhere to. Our Guru, Pujya Swamiji, has mapped the route that we should follow. Even towards his last days, he was giving very clear instructions as what to do in great detail. All the mantras that we had to say were prescribed by him to the letter. All the speeches we had to make at the opening functions, when we were opening the krishas, were all dictated by him. So he set down the rules because everything he did was coming directly from Gurudev, and Gurudev was setting the whole scene before his departure. Of course, there are several ways through which we can reach the goal that Gurudev and Puja Swamiji have prescribed for us. But we have been born under these circumstances to follow the Guru that God led us to. The fact that I am speaking, the fact that you are listening, means that God Himself has directed us to Puja Swamiji and to Sri Gurudev. And the sadhana that the Guru gives is the one that is appropriate for us in this birth, not the teachings of other Gurus. Now, I say this advisedly. All Gurus give very precise instructions and very elevated instructions. But while some of us are inclined to read widely, we might be inclined to follow the teachings of other saints. These may be excellent, but they are meant for those devotees of that saint and not necessarily for us. We have been born into the Divine Life family. God allowed us to be born into the Divine Life family so that we may imbibe the instructions that He gives us in the course of our lives and direct us to the goal, because He knows exactly what is best for us. The path that Swamiji wanted us to follow is that of self-surrender. This is the path that Swamiji himself had followed, and he wanted us to do the same. And what does this mean? It means that we must unconditionally and totally offer everything to the Master. Our actions, our possessions, everything. It's easy to say that we have surrendered, but it is a very difficult thing to practice. Swamiji himself said so. We have to have the firm belief that Guru is ever at our backs, as Gurudev has said, and that we are nothing but the chosen instruments to do His work, His bidding. Even the thoughts that come to us, we should believe fully that they are coming from the Guru. Our successes are not ours. The Guru, in his lifetime, will do everything to slay the ego. And this is the ego that claims the fruit of our successes. And we believe often that we are doing it. But without the Master's grace, there can be no success. That was Puja Swamiji's mission in the Divine Life Society. The mission was that to take us towards God. And the thing that prevented us from going towards God was this Yale lock that we put onto our hearts. And this Yale lock is dominated by our ego, because we think that we are greater than Swamiji, that we know better than Gurudev, and we follow our own dictates. And that is why Swamiji used to really go out of his way to slay our egos. Many people used to say that, oh, your Guru is very strict. But what they didn't understand was it was the Guru's duty to take us towards God, and he knew that the best way to do it is to get rid of our ego. So in many cases, the close devotees, we experienced a lot of what we used to call prasad from Gurudev and Puja Swamiji through Swamiji. And some people found it very difficult to take it. So he was destroying the ego. This is the first precept. I am the instrument. I do nothing. Everything is done by the Master. All praise goes to Him and to Him alone. So this is the key that will unlock our hearts. that will allow the grace of the Master, and this grace is waiting anxiously to get in, to enter our hearts. The key is to leave everything to the Master. The key is to say that the Master is doing everything. It requires absolute and unconditional obedience. Time and time again, the little self, the little ego, comes in the way and blocks the grand self from entering. It says, look how clever I am. Look how talented I am. Look at the work I am doing for the Divine Life Society. Look what a great responsibility I've got. Look at what a nice person I am. Look how other people appreciate what I am doing. Look how beautiful I am. Look how generous I am. All these are manifestations of the ego that comes in the way to elevate the little I and to sublimate the great I, which is Gurudev himself, who is the Master and who is doing everything. The little ego looks around for praise and appreciation from those around it. So if you do something, you want a little bit of appreciation, you want a little bit of praise, and when this is not forthcoming, there is disappointment, anger, and so on. So what is it that hurt? That which hurts is the ego. That which is insulted is the ego. Arguments and fights arise, discords, and so on. So the second precept is offer all your actions to God and claim nothing for yourself. Success and failure are His, not yours, because your actions belong to Him and not to you. I'll repeat that. When you offer everything to the Master, it doesn't matter anymore whether whatever you have done is successful or whether it is a failure, because the Master himself is doing it, and he will decide through his omnipotence and his omniscience how that action will turn out. So when we leave it to him, then we can claim nothing for ourselves, whether it is success or failure. But it's very important that when we make mistakes, when we err, that we should be quick to recognize the error and admit it. This is very, very important. The individual self, the ego, will quickly block the way again and point the cause elsewhere and refuse to acknowledge the error. Very often, the blame is put on somebody else without acknowledging our own contribution towards that situation. So we must be very careful. When we make an error and somebody points it out to us, right, we must be very alert and we must admit the error immediately. Now this is one of the first steps to crush the ego, to admit the error, to say, I have done wrong. Right? Because then you know that you have conquering the thing that tells you, don't say it. And it's a very important step to spiritual progress. The reason being that as long as you admit your errors, then you can make forward, you can make progress. But if you don't, or if we don't, then we remain exactly where we are and we cannot make any spiritual progress. So what is the point? What is the point of being in the Divine Life Society when we can't make any progress spiritually, and we cannot make progress spiritually because we don't wish to admit our errors and go forward? The mother of Aurobindo Ashram used to say that there are 3 steps. The first step is to admit the ego, admit the error. The second step is to promise that you would not make that error again. You must take a vow to yourself, well, I will not do this again. And thirdly, to take some kind of austerity, to do something which will remind you that you made that error. Somebody said, like for instance, just stay away from sugar for a day. You don't put sugar in your tea or something. That's something that reminds you of that error so that it doesn't just go under. All right. So only then, when we do all this, then only we can become better people. We should strive to become better than we were yesterday. We should move towards the state of becoming a perfect being. And the way to do that is to go from day to day, a little better, until we reach that perfection which adorns the life of a realized sage like our Master. And that is possible because the saints have told us that everyone has to realize God at some time or the other. So this is the first step, to admit an error and move forward. In reality, we are that. Tattvamasi. So we have to remove the murky, messy mud that prevents us from seeing the bottom of the pool. Right? All the things that elevates ourselves in all the things that prevent us from going forward because the ego comes in the way. So they come in the form of self-justification and refusal to move toward the state of purity. It used to happen even in Swamiji's time, and Swamiji will tell people quite clearly, he says, you are self-justifying. Right? When I point out the error, instead of admitting it and moving forward, you want to justify and you want to blame somebody else, and you will try to explain yourself away because you want to look good in my eyes. Swamiji will say that. So the third precept is to admit your errors, to recognize our faults and try not to repeat them. And it's important to keep track of our errors through a spiritual diary. This is something that Gurudev has told us all to do, but hardly anyone does it. To have a diary where we record our successes and record our faults, and each day try to focus on those and become better people, to increase the good and to decrease the bad, recognize the errors and move forward. Now, we must eradicate the desires for recognition, the desire for appreciation, the desire to be praised through this wonderful sadhana. If the action isn't yours, as I said, how can you desire these things? Note that even failure belongs to God. You know, somebody used to say even the devil was created by God. Even Satan was created by God. So the failure also belongs to God, because all that is in the process of our own evolution. So whenever this happens, smile and say, any calamity or any failure or any adversity strikes us, smile and look at Gurudev's picture and say, what are you up to, Gurudev? And then say, anyway, you know what is best for me. And this little hiccup that you are giving me is nothing but a stepping stone to the great goal, which is to merge in you. You know best, so why should I care? You are God, you are my guide, you are my protector, and you will do everything for my welfare. You can wish me no harm. It only seems like that now, but in the grand scheme of things, it is happening for the best. That is why Swamiji used to tell us to repeat that mantra. Whatever is happening now is happening for the best. Because only the Lord knows what is best for us. The one teaching of all saints is that we should see God in all, especially in those whom you believe is causing harm to you, who cause you distress, who upset you. But even that is very difficult. Ordinarily, you should see God in all the people around us, in all the people you love, and develop that. And we should develop this feeling. Today is Pongal, or Makranti, I think it's called. And the Pongal festival has got that very, very beautiful concept in it, that on Pongal day, you show gratitude to everybody around you and show only love. Right? So you go and you decorate your servants, you buy clothes for them, right? And you decorate the cows, and you show gratitude to that. You show gratitude to God for bringing in the crops, because you can start reaping the crops. This is the day in India when the sun starts rising towards the northern hemisphere. And I am giving you this talk today on the 14th of January. So this is a stepping stone towards that goal. to see God in all. But I said earlier that especially to see God in those who you believe is causing harm to you. It's a very difficult sadhana, to bear insult and to bear injury. The solution once again lies in the annihilation of the ego, the little self, through the practice of the opening of the heart, unlocking the heart to the Master's will. So we should pray for the welfare of those who hurt us. And it mustn't be superficial. The beginning, it will be very difficult, but you keep practicing and practicing until you are sincere. You actually pray for their welfare without any thoughts of malice. So we should send out only good thoughts to everybody, right? Not only to those who you regard as your enemies, but to all. But if you can succeed with the enemies, then you can succeed with everybody else. Then grace will take over and turn the mind of that person who you have negative feelings towards to accept you as his well-wisher and to have you as his friend. And he or she will stop causing pain to you. So that is the way to stop that. How to respond to people who you think are making your life a little miserable. To see God in all. Look at the world around us. God is everywhere. He is omnipresent. We say that in our prayer. Omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. Look at the flower, even if it is a little flower, blushing shyly amongst the weeds. And admire the great hand that created such a beautiful thing. So delicate, so colorful, so fragrant. And with what raw materials? This flower that comes up on this plant, we don't see any tools around to create that flower. The only raw materials are sunlight, air, and mud. So there is beauty in this world. If you start with little things like this, little flower, and look around, and then you will see there is beauty everywhere. If you look up into the sky, you'll see the brilliant, you'll see all the beautiful clouds floating across it with a brilliant blue background. Such beauty. Look at God's creation, the huge elephant, the tiny mosquito that tries to use you to satisfy its hunger, or the hungry monkey that looks for some food in your kitchen, or the snake with its brilliant colors sliding so swiftly along the ground. Look at the baby, a newborn baby, so perfectly formed. What kind of raw materials would I need to make even one of its dainty little fingers, or its eyes, or its heart happily beating inside it with no person in sight? There is this omnipotence all around us, great power, the omnipresence of God. Look at all those beautiful pictures that Swamiji has printed in his books. All he was doing was showing us God's beauty. In fact, one of his little books is called God's Beauty. And enjoy the beautiful pictures in them of the animals, the brilliant, colorful creatures, the breathtaking landscapes, all of which are his creation. Reflect on the fact that the entire earth can fit snugly into just one flame of the sun. Are you aware of that? This earth that we live in, we are living in a small place, in the small country, on the small continent, on this tiny earth, which is just a dot of God's creation. I know what a tiny piece of creation we are. And yet we think that we are at the center of everything. So many people believe in what you call the homocentric universe, that man is at the center. Such a fallacy. So the fourth precept is to see God in all. All these are all very closely related to unlocking the yay lock. So when we do this, we should develop a feeling of oneness with those around us. Another's suffering is our own. Do not miss the slightest opportunity to serve those around us. We spend hours speaking about the pandemic, but how much time have we spent to alleviate the sufferings of those who are its victims? We can give them encouragement. So we should turn advice into action. Do not say, take vitamins, look after yourself. Very often we do that. Take vitamins, look after yourself. Anyone can do that. But buy the vitamins and take it to them. Do not say, I feel sorry for this family. Anyone can do that. Call them and give them comfort. See how you can alleviate their suffering. Do charity. Giving money is just one way of doing charity. And you must have a generosity of spirit also. Charity is the hosts. At this moment in time, so many people are unemployed. There's so much of suffering. People don't have food. They earn so little. So do a little bit more than what we normally do. Give more to the car guards. Give more to the beggars. Give more to the servants. So we can bring cheer into their lives. I can tell you that we lose very little by doing these small things. Compare what you have to what they have. And cultivate this empathy. So there is so much suffering, as I said, and our sufferings are trivial when we compare them to some of those we come into contact with. We are more interested in serving ourselves first. Right? What shall I eat? What shall I buy? And what clothes should I be wearing? So we are busy serving ourselves. So all these, by serving others, it will help us to see God in all. See? It helps us to see God in all. Because we open our hearts out to all the people around us. All the saints ask us to see the divinity that resides in ourselves. That same divinity resides in every one of God's creations. So we should work towards the ideal of seeing God in all. So, dear devotees, dear children of Gurudev and Puja Swamiji, I pray that the rest of the year is a blessed one for each one of you. May Gurudev's grace descend upon you and give you the wherewithal to open your hearts to His grace using the key that you yourself possess. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. Sadhana and spiritual resolves for young and old, the need of the hour.
Hari Om Machine, why is there such hype all around, especially now, for us to intensify our sadhana and make fresh spiritual resolves? Is this hype related to the COVID-19 pandemic only?
Hari Om Ashirvad. It may be true that we need to intensify our sadhana to bring the power of the divine to rid the world of the coronavirus pandemic. However, it is also true that we need to lead a life of sadhana, discipline, spiritual growth, and prayer to lead a wholesome and spiritual life. To do this, we have to take our sadhana very seriously. Sri Gurudev and Pujya Swami Sahajananda strongly advocated intense sadhana for young and old, and for both aspirants and householders, in order for one to tread the spiritual path. We can engage in either individual or collective sadhana. Sri Gurudev advocated the concept of collective sadhana and had collective prayer and study sessions, group yoga asana classes, and spiritual conferences on aspects of yoga.
Interesting. I am very curious to know more. How can we, as devotees of Divine Life Society of South Africa, intensify our sadhana, especially collective sadhana?
We are very fortunate, Ashirvad, for Pujya Swamiji launched the monthly yoga camps and yoga retreats almost 30 years ago with specific focus, that is, collective sadhana. These occasions provide devotees, both young and old, with the opportunity to engage in sadhana on a more serious level by completing the spiritual diary so as to measure one's progress, renew one's spiritual energy, and progress on the spiritual path. Gurudev stated, the spiritual diary is a whip for goading the mind towards righteousness and God. If you regularly maintain this diary, you'll get solace, peace of mind, and make quick progress in the spiritual path. Maintain a daily diary and realize the marvelous results.
Wow, this means that the spiritual diary will assist us to be regular and disciplined about how we live and perform our daily sadhana. Are there other opportunities for collective sadhana and spiritual growth that the society has initiated?
Yes, our monthly Shivananda Day satsangs at our ashrams and branches, together with the yoga camps and retreats, provide spiritual sustenance for devotees. It is therefore imperative that we grasp every opportunity and are regular and punctual at all satsangs, yoga camps, and yoga retreats, and make spiritual resolves to intensify our sadhana.
I am curious to know about the yoga camps, its aims and objectives and benefits. Can you please elaborate?
Pujya Swamiji's guidelines for the yoga camps are adhered to strictly since the inception of yoga camps almost 38 years ago. The programs are meant to afford devotees the opportunity to engage in serious sadhana, create an awareness of spiritual, moral, ethical, emotional, intellectual, and social values as espoused by our Divine Master, Pujya Swami Sahajananda. Focus on the salient features of Hinduism, foster basic life skills, extend one's creative ability, develop basic organizational skills, and expose us to Sri Gurudev's teachings.
This is very interesting. I hear that in Path of Divine Grace, Volume 4, Puja Swamiji's New Year's message on 2nd January 1983, he gives clear directives to all camp participants, namely that the camp is an opportunity to engage in intense sadhana, austerity, and tapas. Chanting should be an integral part of the camp. Camp participants should feel a sense of strength, confidence, faith, a little more devotion, and a little more courage to face life. And the ashram is a place of austerity.
Yes, Ashirvad. The monthly yoga camp is, in actual fact, a monthly spiritual retreat to discipline the mind and recharge ourselves. I see that you are now an expert of the yoga camp and have convinced us all the value of the yoga camps as a tool for one sadhana. This is indeed the need of this hour and of the future. Do you know what ingredients of sadhana form the basis of yoga camps? You do? Please tell us.
Yes, I do. The fundamental ingredient of the yoga camp is the spiritual diary. Even our preschool spiritual darlings keep a spiritual diary. The elements of the diary are smaran, which is constant remembrance of God, likya, which is writing of mantra, japa, which is chanting of the Lord's name, and asana, which is bodily exercises. The spiritual diary is a measure to check one's spiritual progress.
The cornerstones of the yoga camp are chanting, meditation, Ganga Arti, visit to the sacred Guru Kripa, lessons on all aspects of Sri Gurudev's writings, topics for young and old related to growth and development, moral and ethical education. In addition, we have sport, swimming, gymnastic drill rehearsal, and displays. But for many of us, the highlights are the sumptuous breakfast, peanut butter and jam, and lunch.
I think that we must allude to Sri Swami Shivananda's 20 spiritual instructions, which are important aspects of sadhana and spiritual resolves. Indeed, the need for the hour, more especially because of the problems we face in current times.
Please don't frighten us, Ashirvad. 20 instructions. Some of us find it difficult just to practice one or two.
Even if one sincerely practices a few of these, one is bound to progress.
Thanks, Ashirvad. What are the 20 spiritual instructions?
Sri Gurudev says that the 20 instructions contain the very essence of all yoga sadhana. Karma, bhakti, jnana, and yoga will all come to one who follows them wholeheartedly. They are the unfailing keys to quick and effective development and culture of the physical, mental, moral, and spiritual self of man. The 20 spiritual instructions in summary are: number 1, Brahma Muhurta. Get up at 4 a.m. daily. This is Brahma Muhurta. The period from 4 to 7 a.m. is extremely favorable for sadhana. Number 2, Asana. Asana refers to bodily exercise, postures, and pranayama or breathing exercises.
As the saying goes, a sound mind in a sound body. During this time of pandemic, it is very important to exercise and keep fit also.
Number 3, Japa. Repeat any mantra of choice. Let us pledge to do japa for at least 20 to 30 minutes daily. Number 4, dietetic discipline. Take pure and sattvic food. Partake of vegetarian food. Number 5, meditation. Meditation calms and steadies the mind. Pujya Swamiji often stated that we all have to do long periods of meditation to earn Gurudev's grace. Let us begin now. Number 6, Swadhyaya. Study systematically the sacred texts and books daily. In fact, Gurudev states that reading the books of saints is equivalent to having satsang with the saint.
Did Pujya Swamiji highlight any books?
Yes, some books mentioned in particular are From Man to God Man, Shivananda's Gospel of Divine Life, Guidance in Daily Life, and our Guru Bhakti Yoga.
Thank you, Ashirvad. At least we have a few titles to start with.
Number 7, Elevate the Mind. Memorize some slokas, which are prayer verses, and stotras, which are hymns, and repeat them before starting japa or meditation. This will elevate the mind quickly. Number 8, Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is purity in thought, word, and deed. Preserve the vital force, the virya, or seminal energy carefully. Number 9, Charity. Do charity regularly according to one's means. Number 10, have satsang. Have constant satsang, that is, association with holy people. Number 11, fast on Ekadasi and special religious occasions. Number 12, Japa Mala. Have a Japa Mala or rosary around your neck or in your pocket or underneath your pillow to remind you of God. Number 13, observe Mona. Observe Mona, the vow of silence, for a couple of hours daily. I think this is meant for you, Ashin. Number 14, discipline of speech. Speak the truth at all cost. Speak a little, speak sweetly. Number 15, be content. Reduce your wants.
I think the value of contentment has been shown during this pandemic. Even multimillionaires realize that their money was worthless when oxygen cannot be taken in by the body.
That's true, brother. Nature has taught us difficult lessons and has shown us how simple living and high thinking is what we require. Number 16. Practice love. Never hurt anybody. Practice ahimsa, that is non injury. Control anger by love or forgiveness, and daya or compassion. Serve the sick and the poor with love and affection. This is service of God. Number 17. Be self reliant. The Master says that we should not depend upon servants. Self reliance is the highest of all virtues. Number 18. Have self analysis. Think of the mistakes you have committed during the day, just before retiring to bed. Keep a daily spiritual diary and self correction register. Number 19. Do your duty. Remember that death is awaiting us at every moment. Never fail to fulfill one's duties. Number 20. Remember God. Think of God always. Repeat His name always. Ashin, this is the essence of all spiritual sadhana. It will lead you to liberation. All these spiritual canons must be rigidly observed. One must not give any leniency to the mind.
Wow, that was astonishing. 20 spiritual instructions. I'm sure we can resolve to follow some of the instructions, if not all.
On the topic of resolves, our beloved Gurudev has given us some good advice also. The following are some examples of resolves for quick spiritual progress by Sri Swami Shivananda. Maintain a daily spiritual diary and at the end of every month, review it. Do daily likit japa or mantra writing. Chalk out a daily routine for daily practice and stick to it at any cost. Distractions and obstacles are many. Be ever careful and vigilant. Make a few resolves for practicing during the new year. Do not abruptly change the mode of living. Do not try the impossible at first. Take your resolves very cautiously and ascend step by step on the ladder of yoga. If you fail in any of the resolves through lack of self control, unknowingly or by force of circumstances, you should perform some extra malas of japa or give up one meal to remind yourself of the resolve and to impress the mind of the importance of these resolves. This is self punishment.
What are some typical resolves we can take to help us?
Sri Gurudev has also assisted in this regard. We can choose any of the following that Sri Gurudev has shared, namely, I will perform asanas and pranayama for X minutes daily. I will take milk and fruit only in lieu of night meals once a week, fortnight, or month. I will observe a fast on Ekadasi or once a fortnight or month. I will give up one of my cherished objects of enjoyment once every X number of days or months.
Hey Ashirwad, do you think we can give up cell phones for a day?
That will be serious tapas, brother. Here are a few more resolves. I will not indulge in any of the following more than once every X number of days or weeks, or for X number of months. Smoking, cards, cinemas, and novels. I will observe Mona, which is complete silence, for X number of minutes or hours daily and on Sundays or holidays. and utilize the time in concentration, meditation, japa, and introspection. I will observe brahmacharya, that is celibacy, for X number of weeks or months at a time. I will not utter angry, harsh, or vulgar words towards anyone during this year. I will speak the truth at all costs. I will not entertain hatred or evil thoughts towards anyone. I will give away X cents per dollar of my income in charity. I will perform selfless service for so many hours, daily or weekly. I will do X number of malas of japa daily, that is, a mala of 108 beads. I will write my Ishta mantra or Guru mantra in a notebook daily for so many minutes or so many pages. I will study X number of slokas of Gita daily with commentary. I will maintain a daily spiritual diary. I will get up at X time daily and spend X hours in japa, concentration, meditation, prayer, etc. I will conduct satsang with family members and friends daily for so many minutes or hours at night. In addition to these, Puja Swamiji has given us various pledge forms, namely television pledge forms, the Karma Yoga pledge form, Brahmacharya pledge form, and the daily satsang pledge form.
Friends, what is now our responsibility? We can be complacent, or we can make a solemn pledge to Sri Gurudev and Pujya Swamiji to make serious spiritual resolves, which is really the pressing need for the hour, especially with the challenges that the world faces with the coronavirus pandemic.
We find resonance and meaning in the following words of Sri Swami Shivananda. Prayer does not demand high intelligence or eloquence. God wants your heart when you pray. Even a few words from a humble, pure soul, though illiterate, will appeal to the Lord more than the eloquent, flowing words of an orator or a pandit.
Further, the Master assures us when he says, even when the medical board has pronounced a case to be hopeless, prayer comes to the rescue and the patient is miraculously cured. There have been many instances of this description. You might know this. Healing by prayer is really miraculous and mysterious. Pray fervently, right now, from this very second. Do not delay, friend. That tomorrow may never come. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Hariom, dear camp participants. Thank you for tuning into our Yoga Camp online lessons. Please note that satsang will commence at 11 a.m. and a WhatsApp link will be sent to you shortly. Om.